Wales against Argentina, folks. Autumn Nation Series. Wales, way a bit disappointing last week against the All Blacks, and the Argentinians coming off firing over a big win. When I say big, I don't mean big as in terms of scoreline, but big as in terms of important win over the English. Away from home, we're going to go through some lineups, some stats, predictions. You guys can let us know your thoughts. And, the Argentinian-Welsh battle continues. I feel like these teams have played each other a lot in recent times. I should say, if you guys want some rugby jerseys, want to add to your collection, check out the British and Irish Lions rugby store, man. They're having some of the gears like 70% off, man. So check it out. Rugby jerseys. I like them. You might like them too. Wales are in 9th. Argentina's in 6th. Kind of speaks to where the teams are at in terms of their kind of relatively recent trajectory. Wales 22 has not been their favourite year. Argentina a bit inconsistent. Like, they can beat the All Blacks 1 week away from home and then literally lose by pretty much 50 points to, 56, 53 the next week. So is Argentina going to show up the same team that won at Twickenham, or are they going to struggle on a second week in a row? We will soon find out. For the Welsh, they have made a few kind of tinkering changes. Not all of them are just selection-based. Some of them are kind of like injury-enforced. Gareth, Thomas, Ken Owens, Dillon, Lewis is the front row. Apparently, Tom Francis has been like doing reduced training after last week's game, so I guess they decided not to risk him. So Dillon Lewis gets a start, tight head. The locks are the same with Adam Baird and Will Rowlands, and I do think those guys have been doing all right for the doom and gloom around Welsh rugby at times. I do like that duo. I think Will Rowlands has been getting through millions of tackles. He's been doing his stuff in the air. He's got a really high work rate. He's always like chasing back. He almost stopped Adi Savia's try last week. When Adi was diving and Rowlands just tried to grab him. So commitment for the cause. You can't doubt that guy and Adam Baird. More disruption and just pure size of human. You get pretty good bang for your buck. It's an experienced back row with Lydiate, Tipuric and Faletau. Now in Wales, you guys have got millions of loosies to choose from. You guys tend to breed them pretty well over there, but you've gone with some experience. I mean, Lydiate, Tipuric and Faletau, those guys have played some rugby together before, haven't they? I mean, they brought that up in the press conference. So, Tipuric switches from 6 to 7 this week to make way for Lydiate. And Faletau, I mean, he's still class, isn't he? Last week, I think he was 24 from 24 tackles. Doesn't get talked about because the Welsh got hiding, but he's still good. Still very, very good. Backs was Thomas Williams, Gareth, Anscombe 9-10. So remember, Anscombe was initially named 10 last week. And then to shift to 15 with Lee Halfpenny's withdrawal. He's back to his original kind of 10 spot this week, which means Priestland's on the bench. Tompkins and George North in the midfield. George North a bit quiet last week. So we could use to see a bit more from him. Cuthbert comes in on the right wing because Rees-Zammit's been moved to fullback in the absence of both Liam Williams and Halfpenny through injury. So apparently they've been training him a bit at 15. I don't think he's ever started on international at 15, has he? And he doesn't play much 15 for Gloucester. From when I was the Premiership, he's pretty much always on the wing. So yeah, it's going to be a big test for him. But yeah, we'll see how he goes. Dyer, second test for him. He's already scored a try against the All Blacks, so his introduction to international rugby has been pretty solid. So we'll see how he goes against the Argentinians. Elias, Rhodri Jones, and Sam Wainwright are the front row replacements, so 2 new props there. What's his name? Pivac just basically talked about wanting to rotate things a little bit, giving some guys some game time. Likewise, bringing in Ben Carter for Alan Wynne-Jones on the bench and Jack Morgan on the bench as well. Kieran Hardy, Rhys, Priestland, Owen, Watkin are your back replacements. Tunes unfortunately is injured. Reffel is injured. I think Nicky Smith has just rotated. So a little bit of injury enforced stuff for the Welsh guys. For the Argentinians, no changes. Same 23 that took the field against England. So if you wanted consistency, you wanted building combinations, you're absolutely getting it here. So as a reminder, Gajo, Montoya, Cordella, that's the front row. I will say again, and I say it probably every time I mention a team which has got this guy in it, keep an eye on Thomas Gajo, the loose head prop. Loves a carry. Just loves a carry. He's not just there for his scrummaging, and his scrummaging is improving as well. It's getting better, but very fun guy to watch around the park. You guys should all know about Montoya with his just work rate at the breakdown, getting through tackles, and very, very dangerous on the turnover. So it's a good front row. Alamano Lavanini, the second row. Lavini's been keeping his nose pretty clean this season, so that always makes him a more of a kind of a good attribute, or a good, what's the word I'm looking for? He's a good positive impact player to have rather than a detriment. What's the opposite of a detriment? You know what I mean. So yeah, Lavini's been playing well. He's a big man, puts in some big hits, big work rate. Juan Martin Gonzalez, Marcos Crema, and Pablo Mateo. Speaking of work rate, Crema had like 20 tackles last week against England. Bit of a beast of a man, and Mateo has got the kind of skill set to go with the work rate as well. Bertrand Carreras set up a try last week, scored a try last week. Kicked a fair bit of ball last week as well. Speaking of kick the ball, Boffelli with the boot and a try. He had 25 points. Certainly made a big impact. De La Fuente and Moroni in the midfield. Carreras, that's Mateo Carreras on the other wing. And then Mallia is there at fullback. Bench-wise, Ignacio Ruiz, who did well under pressure, man. Very inexperienced, but came on, threw some lineouts and kept things pretty steady. Titus Chaparro and Bejo are the prop replacements. Lucas Paulo is still there. Facundo Isa still there. Elias Morales didn't get off the bench last week. Bertrand played the whole game. So we'll see if he gets his debut. Albonoz and Matias Orlando are there as well. So about as steady as you can go. You can't get any steadier than Michael Cheika's selection for Argentina this week. Stats-wise, Wales just simply don't score many tries this year. They're averaging less than 2 tries a game. And like I mentioned in one of the other videos for this week, like the run meters per carry number, like looking at how many run meters your team gets, how many carries do they use to get that many run meters. Generally, not always, but generally it's a good indicator of a team which is going forward and has a good attack. Wales is poor. Like 4 is the nice number to have. If you can get 4 run meters a carry, it means generally your team's going forward. Under 4, it means not doing as well. Like a lot of teams are in the 3s, like 3.7, 3.9. Wales 2.9, so quite low. Like the All Blacks are usually above 4. Japan, I think it was the team I was referencing, also does well in this regard. They're above 4. Pretty sure France is above 4. So yeah, Wales 2.9. Their attack has just been a bit blunt, the bluntest in that regard of all the Tier 1 teams this season. But it's an interesting one because I like looking at the stats to see, like, of all the actions a team took with ball in hand, what did they do the most of? Did they kick, did they pass, or did they run? Right? And you can do both. In one phase, you can pass, kick. But like, what percentage of all those actions was made up by passes? What was made up by kicks? And interestingly, looking at Wales's games where they either won this season, there's only been a couple, or where they lost like close games, like the first couple of games against South Africa, their loss against France in the Six Nations. All those games, their win against Scotland, they kicked a high proportion of the ball they had. Like of all the actions they made, kicking was a higher proportion compared to the games they lost. Like the bad losses, like the loss against New Zealand, like the loss against Ireland in the Six Nations. The games where kicking is a small part of what Wales do, they've been not very good. Where kicking is higher, they've been good. I'm not sure if that's a fluke, but there's like multiple games where that seems to be the case. Wins and close losses, a lot more kicking. Not necessarily by number of kicks, but by percentage of what they're doing, if that makes a lick of sense. For Argentina, their game is evolving under Michael Cheika, certainly. When they first started off, and it was kind of similar to what he was playing with Australia and the Waratahs back in the days, not much kicking, like fewer than 20 kicks a game, like in the teens, but like against Scotland in July. But we've seen a lot more willingness for Michael Cheika's Argentina side to put boot to ball. Case in point, last week's game, I don't think I've ever seen a game where the balance of kicks and runs was so almost even. Like usually teams kick it 30 times, have 100 runs. You know what I mean? 120 carries maybe. 40 kicks if it's a lot of kicking. 15 kicks if it's low. Last week, Argentina, 47 carries, 30 kicks. Like, that's incredible. That's really extraordinary. A lot of boot to ball. They played some smart rugby. They will need to be careful with Wales's maul, though, the Argentinians. I pointed out last week, Argentina's conceded a lot of tries from mauls this year against, I think one against Scotland, certainly against South Africa, maybe against New Zealand. They've conceded a fair few maul tries. And Wales, whilst their season's not been that great, they're one of the few teams to score a maul try against South Africa. I think they might have scored it. Did they score a maul try against the Irish? No, that was a broken play try. But yeah, Wales have been able to score. Like, South Africa doesn't concede many maul tries, so yeah, Wales can maul it. So they'll need to be careful if Wales do opt for that, the Argentinians. Recent history between the sides. Of the last 5 games, you've got 3 Welsh wins, but those are all your 3 oldest results. That's 2016 and 2 games in 2018. The 2 more recent results, it's a draw and it's this 33-11 win. That was just last year when Argentina went to Europe, when I think they were supposed to be in Argentina, but because of the COVID stuff, it was kind of all flipped on its head, right? So a 20-all draw and 33-11. So across the last 5, it's 22-19 in Wales' favour, the average score. So they're pretty tight games, but the most recent 2, as I said, it's Argentina and a draw. So take that for what it's worth. Predictions-wise, Wales are still the favourites at home, looking to bounce back. They are 1-point favourites with the bookies and 5-point favourites with the Rugby Forecast algorithm. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. It is at the Principality. It's on at 5:30, I think, local time, which makes it, I think, 6:30 over here in NZ. So peak breakfast, the coffee time to watch some rugby. Ben O'Keefe is the ref, another bloody New Zealander. I think it's at least 3 New Zealand refs in action this week, so fingers crossed he has a good game. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. Sorry to go on about percentages and whatnot so much. I was just trawling over Wales' numbers for a long time, and that just seemed to be one of the patterns that was emerging. But anyway, remember, if you're in the States and you want to watch the rugby this weekend, Flow Rugby, all the autumn games. So link down in the description for Flow, all last week's games if you want to relive any of the action. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.